Next on, we have Dave Mclaughlin, or indeed Dave Mack, as he's probably better known to us. Dave is an outstanding member of ORWELL and indeed a co-owner of Joe Daly's as well. Dave is going to take us through a quick bike check and remind us as well how to wear our helmets correctly. Dave has been very generous in the past with his time with ORWELL, with racing, with youths, audaxing, and indeed leisure members. So Dave is also online and to take our questions after that. Let me just mention as well, over the last 4 weeks, we've had a mobile phone videography course going for some ORWELL members, sponsored by ORWELL. And I'm delighted to say that we have the first video of this tonight on the M-Check. So maybe, as I say, we could roll it there, please. I don't know what you talk of the video, but I think there's a contender there for CNN, and as well, it actually looked really one. So thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave, folks?
Brian, I had one, which was how often should you change your helmet?
That really depends, John. So the helmet manufacturers typically recommend 2 years or 3 years, depending on the brand. But the reason for that is obviously because they want to sell new helmets. I suppose the simplest thing to say is if you have a crash when you hit your head, then change your helmet, even if you can't see the damage to it. Helmets are of compressible material. That's what saves you. So if I have a crash where I hit the head, I'm binning the helmet no matter what, no matter how new, no matter how expensive. Other than that, if you don't crash, if you look after it well, they will last for years. But probably the deciding factor is that they are a steadily progressing technology. They're getting better every couple of years. So if you have one that's like 10 years old, the probability is, even if it's good, you can get one that fits you much better, that is much lighter, much more comfortable for reasonable money. So not a simple answer there, other than obviously if you crash it, really whenever you don't like it anymore, whenever you see one that looks nicer.
Dave? Anne here.
How are you doing?
Hi. With disc brakes, I wasn't aware that you could see the wearing of disc brakes. It's very obvious, obviously, in the traditional brakes, but I'm always a bit fearful that, which has happened to me actually, that it has gone without any forewarning. So yeah, I must look into that actually, how you can really, because I couldn't see it very clearly on the video.
Yes, ever so slightly hard to see on the video. Easier to see in the flesh. But the material of the pad, the braking material is about 3/4 of the size of the backing pad of the metal. You will see it as a step on the pad coming out to the rotor. If you don't see that visible step, then it probably means that your pads are quite worn. If you look at a new fresh set of pads, then it will be readily apparent when you look at it in the flesh. With flat-barred hydraulic brakes, with mountain bike style hydraulic brakes, you won't actually know if you don't check until you hit the metal that they're worn out. With road bikes though, even though hydraulic disc brakes self-adjust, with the road bike ones, levers do start to travel when the pads are getting worn. So if you notice that your levers are coming back towards the bars, that's the point that they're just about at the end of their life as well.
Hi, Dave. Hello, Dave.
Andrew, how are you doing?
Hi, Dave. Hi, good to see you again. Is it very technical to change the disc ones? And roughly how long do they, I suppose one of those, how long is a piece of string? Roughly how long can I expect them to last, or in that sort of neighborhood? How do they wear as against, let's say, the old rim brakes?
Couple of questions there. So first one, most models of disc brake, changing the pads is probably simpler than changing old rim brake pads. If you're technical enough to change a tube, if you're technical enough to change rim brake pads, then yes, you can change disc brake pads. It's not that technical at all. As with anything, the first time you do it, you're best off either reading the manual or asking for instructions. But yes, anyone here on this call can do it. As for wear of the pads, that depends on the user. It depends on the conditions you're using it in. Typically, rule of thumb is that you get about 3 or 4 times the life from a set of disc pads as you do from a pair of rubber rim brake pads. Okay. So however long that is. I have seen some people getting several years out of a set of brake pads. Actually, I think I have a pair of brake pads on the back of my mountain bike that are 8 or 9 years old now, and have still got some life left in them. On the other hand, we've seen people who do a lot of hilly cycling and who favor one brake over another that have managed to wear out disc brake pads in 3 or 4 months on one. So it's how long is a piece of string kind of thing. Your mileage will vary. If it's in winter, if it's in wet conditions, even though it doesn't affect the braking so badly, it does still affect the wear as it would with a set of rubber pads. If it's all summer weather, nice cycling, then they'll last much, much longer.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question that actually relates to forks and carbon fiber forks. And is there a lifespan associated with carbon fiber forks, or do they go on forever?
No, there isn't typically a lifespan. So most of the good bike manufacturers will give, or most of the high-end ones give lifetime warranties on their carbon stuff, frames or forks. So no, if it's good quality stuff and if it isn't crashed or abused, it should last a lifetime. The only thing, because carbon is a woven material, it is prone to damage, as any material, as steel is, as aluminium is. So if it gets hit with a sharp edge, or if you have a crash, then certainly it is possible to break it. And it is possible for it to be broken without the damage necessarily being entirely obvious either. So first question, is there a lifespan? No, there isn't. Does it need to be taken care of, or is it possible to wear them out or break them? Yes, it absolutely is.
Dave, it's John. I have 2 questions, 2 in 1. So the first question, carbon pads on carbon rims versus normal pads on a rim, and the braking difference in the wet. So if it's wet, I don't take the carbon wheels. Generally, I'm just too nervous because the stopping distance is bad. I'm just wondering, what is the difference really between the two in the wet when you put the brakes on?
That depends on the rims, John. So with some brands of carbon wheels, particularly the earlier ones, the braking was diabolical. It was very, very poor. So what you would gain on the uphills, you would lose on the downhills. With a lot of the newer ones, the braking is quite good on the more modern carbon braking surfaces, but still not quite so good as you'll get from the equivalent aluminium rim. Unfortunately, that's not a simple question. Depends on the wheels and depends on the pads you have on, but in nearly every case they will be that little bit worse. Like yourself, I wouldn't be inclined to use carbon wheels on wet days for sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So my second question is a general one, just on tires, winter tires versus summer tires on normal spins. What do you recommend? What brand, what type do you recommend for wet, dirty surfaces up in the hills versus dry summer days? There are such things.
Right, so perceived wisdom there. What we use as winter tires are ones that give us the least chance of a puncture, because the reasoning for that, when it's wet, dirty roads, your chances of punctures are considerably higher, and the chances of your club mates not wanting to wait for you are also much, much higher as well. So that's why we use the likes of the Gator Skins or Giuranos or various other options. When I was doing a lot of training, Gator Skins were my favorite by a long way, just because they're so durable. A lot of people don't like them because their grip is very, very poor. So ironically, you have, for the wet and slippy conditions, the least grippy tires you can get. But I tended to find on winter spins that I wouldn't need particularly grippy tires, because we'd be going on a nice steady pace, no wild maneuvers, no high speed descending or anything like that. So durability and lack of punctures was what you wanted. For that reason, for myself, Gator Skins was always the one of choice. For people who are a little bit nervous of the slippery nature of them, the Schwalbe Giurano would be my second choice there. For summertime, then really it's down to your wallet as to what you want. The more expensive tires have better grip, but also much less durability. So what you're getting for your money with the summer tires, lightweight means faster rolling, better handling, better grip, makes the bike feel better and makes it go quicker. Unfortunately, you wear through them much, much quicker, particularly if you're doing big miles in good weather. So my favorite tire for the summertime is the Schwalbe 1. But I'd also go for a Vittoria Corsa or a GP 5000. Downsides of all of those guys, as I say, unfortunately, is that the price of the good performance is a very short life, limited durability. If you're not into changing your summer tires regularly, if you want something with a good combination of durability and performance, then probably the likes of the GP 4 Seasons by Continental is my best choice in that regard.
So folks, a big thanks to Dave, if you could.